Hello YouTube, my name is Daniel and welcome back to another video. This is the fourth video in my Android Pokemon deck series. So in the last video we created the view models and the recycler view adapters. In this video we're going to focus on the dialogues and the fragments. So if we go over to our UI folder and we're going to create a new package. So right click, new package, and this one will be called dialogues. And inside the dialogues package, we want to create a new Kotlin file, and this will be called filter dialog. And this will be used for filtering our list of Pokemon in the list view. In the constructor, we will need a listener, which we will call filter listener. And we will define this later on at the bottom of this class. Next, this needs to inherit from dialog fragment. And then we're going to initialize the listener up here. And then we need to override on create. And here we need to set the retained instance to be true. This is used to keep the instance of the dialog when we rotate the screen, so that is fully recreated once the screen is finished rotating. So we need to call set retain instance and then pass in true. This is deprecated, but I wasn't able to find an up-to-date version, so if anyone could point me up to that, that'd be great. Next we need to override on create view. And then we need to initialize some of our views. The first one will be the fragment underscore container. And this will equal container. The root view will be layout inflator dot inflate. And we can pass in the layout I'm just going to add a bit more space here. And then we pass in the fragment container and then false. Now we can declare our images. So the first one will be the fire image, which will be the image to filter all the Pokemon that have the type of fire. And this will be an image view. And the ID is r.id.dialog fire image. We can copy and paste this 3 times. And the next one will be water image. Then grass image, and the cancel button. The type for the cancel button will be a button. And then we just need to replace the IDs. So this one will be water image, this one will be grass image, and this one will be dialog cancel button. Now we need to set up our click listeners. So the fire image, set on click listener, and then we can call filter listener dot type to search, and then pass in fire. What we will do now is just define this listener down here. So interface, filter listener, and this will just have one function, which would be type to search. And this will take a type, which will be a string. And also while we're here, we can override onDestroy. And this is where we will retain the instance of our dialog fragment. So we need to check if dialog is not null. And retain instance is true. Then we can call dialog dot set on dismiss listener null, and we just need to add the double exclamation marks there. And now we can get back to setting up the listeners. So for the next two, we can just copy and paste this. So this one will be water image. Next one will be grass image. And then for the cancel button, this will just call this.dismiss. So this will dismiss the dialog, and then after each filter, we also need to call that. And then here, we just need to return root view. And that is our dialog all completed. We can now move on to the fragments. So under our UI package, we want to create a new package called fragments. And the first fragment we will create is the map view fragment. So this is where we plot the Pokemon on our map. And as we're using Hilt, we need to annotate this with @Android entry point. And this will need to inherit from fragment. And first off, we need to declare the binding, which will be fragment map binding. And also our view model. And these will both need to be private. This will be map view model. And in order to initialize this, we need to call by view models. And then just run that import. And then the view model as well. Okay, now we need to override on view created. Now we need to initialize our binding, so that will be fragment map binding dot bind view. And then we can call binding dot map fragment back. So this is the back button image, and this will just call find nav controller pop back stack. So that will just navigate back to the previous fragment. Then we want to call a function called init observers, which will observe our live data instances from our view model. And when this fragment is created, we want to launch a coroutine here to fetch the Pokemon list. So launch when started, view model dot get Pokemon list. And also in the fragment up here, we need to pass in our layout so that our view is correctly initialized. So r.layout.fragment map. I'm just going to add a bit more space here. The next function we will create is just a function to show and hide the progress bar. So this will be called show progress, and it will take a boolean called is visible, and this will just show or hide the progress bar. So binding.mapFragmentProgress.isVisible equals is visible. And now we can start building the init observer function. So we will be observing the Pokemon list. So this will be viewModel.getPokemon, viewModel.Pokemon list, and then .observe, and then pass in the view lifecycle owner and the observer, and we will just call this list. And now we need a switch statement to switch all of our different cases such as success or error. So when list is resource.success, and then if we click here, add remaining branches, we'll just add all those in for us. So firstly, if the request is successful, we want to call show progress bar false to hide the progress bar. And then we're going to check if the list is not empty or if it's null. So if list is not empty, so if list.data is not empty, or list.data is not null, in fact we want to change this to and, just to make sure we cover both cases. Okay. So now after hiding the progress bar, we can now check whether the list is empty or null. And in order to do that, we can do if list.data.is not empty, and then we can check true and just add a question mark here. So this is going to check whether it's null or whether it's not empty. And inside here, we want to loop that data. So list.data.forEach, and for every single Pokemon in this list we want to create a image view. So our image view plus in the context, which is this. Okay, so we're in a fragment, so we can pass require context. Next we need the layout params, which will be relative layout.layout params, and just pass in the pixels, which will be 200 200 for width and height. And I'm just going to, instead of using it, we will just call this Pokemon. And now we need to get the URL of the image, so that will be Pokemon.image. We need to check if it's nullable or not. In order to load the image, we just need to pass in the image view and the URL, which is it. And now we need to check for the positions of the image. So the first one will be Pokemon.positionLeft. and we'll just call this one left. Then the top position, so Pokemon.position top, and we just call that top here. And then inside this we just need to call imageUtils.setMargins, pass in the view, which is the image, the left and the top margin. And now we just need to add the image to our layout, so that'll be binding dot map fragment image layout dot add view, and pass in the image. And also we mustn't forget the layout params, so in order to assign those we just call image dot layout params and then equals layout params. Now if we get an error, we just want to hide the progress bar, and also we want to show a toast, and we will just call toast.makeText, pass in the context. In the message we will just say no Pokemon found, and the length, which will just be short, and then show the toast message. For expired we will just leave blank on this one, and for the loading we want to show progress true. And that is it for the map view fragment. We're now going to move on to the saved list fragment. So right click, new Kotlin class, and we will call this saved list fragment. Now we are going to have similar functions such as view model observers, and also the setting up of a fragment is quite similar. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the map view fragment and just change a few things. So firstly we want to change the fragment name, the layout that we're passing, the binding, the view model, then we just change this here, get rid of the back button function up there, and for the init observers we will just get rid of everything there and remove the show progress. And also we just want to remove all of these unused imports. So in the onCreate, the first thing we want to do is set up our back button, so that'll be binding saved fragment back, set on click listener, find nav controller, pop backstack. Next one will be binding dot settings image, and click listener, and we will call a function called delete all Pokemon, which we will create in a second. And when this fragment launches, we want to call launch when started, a function called setupRV for setting up the recycler view, the init observer function, and view model dot get saved Pokemon. The first function we will create is the setupRV for setting up our recycler view, and we need to initialize a variable up here first. This will be called our Pokemon list adapter, so private lateInit var Pokemon saved list adapter, and then we'll have a count to keep track of the saved Pokemon, which we'll initialize as 0, and the list of saved Pokemon, which we will call saved list, and that will be a mutable list of custom Pokemon list item. So in the setupRV function, we will initialize the list adapter, and we want to add a click listener. So Pokemon save list adapter set on click listener, and then we can pass object Pokemon save list adapter to onClick listener and open the brackets. And if we hover over here, we can implement the members, so the onClick. And now we've got our Pokemon list item from the list that we clicked, and we want to pass this over to the detail fragment where we can see the list of all of the Pokemon's abilities and the images, etc. So we need to pass this in a bundle, which we can initialize here. Inside that bundle, we are going to put our custom Pokemon list item in the put parsable, and we will call this Pokemon, and we pass in the item. And now we just call find nav controller dot navigate r.id dot action saved view fragment to detail fragment, and pass in the bundle. Next we need to set up the delete listener, so I'm just going to copy and paste this. So set on delete listener, on delete listener, and then implement the correct function, and this will just call delete Pokemon. And we just pass in the item and the position, and remove the onClick here. And now we just need to call binding.saved fragment rv.adapter equals Pokemon saved list adapter. The next function will be in the observer, and that will call viewModel.saved Pokemon. So Pokemon list, observe, pass in the lifecycle owner and the observer. And we will call this list again. I'm just going to check all the different cases. And in the remaining branches. So if it's success, we're just going to check again if that list is not null or empty. So if list data is not empty equals true, we will then initialize the count, which will be list.data.size. The saved list will be list.data as mutable list. We can then set the list in the adapter, and then we just call notify dataset changed. We can also refresh the recycler view. And now for error, we want to set binding.saved fragment placeholder is visible to true. And for these two down here, we're not going to do anything as they are not needed in this view. And now that function's done, we will create the delete Pokemon function. And this will take the custom Pokemon item plus the position, which will be an int. And this will create an alert dialog. So first we need to call the alert dialog builder. Pass in the context and the style. So r.style my dialog theme. And now I want to set the message. And that will be, are you sure you want to delete this Pokemon? Then we want to set cancelable to false, because they either have to select yes or no. Set positive button, yes, and open brackets, and then we get access to the dialog and the ID. And the first thing we want to call is make sure this Pokemon is no longer saved, so Pokemon is saved equals false. And that is a string. Then we want to remove the item from the recycler view and notify the dataset has changed, so the recycler view is refreshed. And then we want to decrement the count, and we're going to check if the count is equal to 0, then we'll show our placeholder. The placeholder is just saying that your saved Pokemon will appear here. So the visibility equals true. And then we can call viewModel dot delete Pokemon and pass in the custom Pokemon item. Then we need to call the negative button, which would be no. And in here we will just call dialog.dismiss. And then we can call builder.create, and then finally .show. And that is the delete Pokemon function. The delete all Pokemon will be very similar, so I'm just going to copy and paste and rename the function. So delete all Pokemon. This will not take any parameters. And we'll just remove everything in the positive section just to give us more room. The message will change slightly. It will just say, are you sure you want to delete all Pokemon? And we will just check if the count is greater than 0. And loop through the saved list. And update the saved value. And then we just call that function for every Pokemon in the list. So delete Pokemon and just call it. and that will delete all of the Pokemon. Then we just need to clear the recycler view and update it. So we're just going to call saved list clear to remove all of the Pokemon in our locally saved list, and then call Pokemon list adapter set list to the empty one, notify dataset changed, and show our placeholder. And that is the delete all Pokemon function. I'm just going to change this to is visible. I just need to update it here for. Okay, I see I made a mistake with the function name, so let's just resolve that. It looks like we've still got another error in this fragment. And it's just the same, so it is visible equals true. And that is it for the saved list fragment. So I'm going to end this video here, guys. So we created 2 fragments and a dialogue in this video. In the next video, we will create the final 2 fragments and then test the app. If you have any questions, please post them down in the comments. Please like the video and please subscribe.